Once again, welcome back to another 67 Camaro video on ShopDog-Garage. Don't know what we're going to accomplish today, but last night we were playing with doors, so I have a feeling that's kind of where I got to stick. I also did get a few comments about the fact that the doors aren't assembled at the moment, and I'm going to show you why that's actually a good thing right now. One, you put everything in them and they get heavy. And two, yes, I am at some point going to have to install at least the Ventapane to make sure all the holes line up and that everything's going to work. But the big thing right now is not aligning the car, but proving that the car can be aligned and doing the body work against that alignment, because it's all going to come apart for paint. It's kind of like looking here. You can see this gap looks good, 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 good. Oh, we get down here and it falls apart. Now, I'm going to say it's the quarter on that one. Even though I have been really, really critical of this Goodmark door, I think this is because this has been repaired in the life of this car. In fact, you can see how soft this body line is here. Maybe like this. Okay, pretty sharp, sharp, sharp. Boom, it gets real soft here. So you can see I'm going to have to build that out. And I'm going to do any adjustment to the body line, I'm going to do on the quarters. The quarters stay on the car. This, people touch, you hit it, it's going to hit curbs and things. So the door needs to be as metal as possible. So probably the same thing when we're working up here. Probably going to modify the fender. You know, I mean, if I have to add metal, that's one thing. But there will be no buildup of body filler to create edges. That's always a failure. You're not going to win that. The other thing, yes, at some point, you know, when we're getting a lot closer and the bodywork's kind of coming together, yes, we will assemble doors and make sure that there's not bodywork that needs done. It's kind of like, I know it's been almost a year. I've already put door handles and locks in here and found out that Goodmark didn't punch that well. So I know I have to fill that in. The one on the other side, however, now you saw how weirdly shaped that was. See how this doesn't have that tear? This one worked just fine. Door handle mounted just fine. So yes, there's a lot of things I'm not showing. Also, not a professional, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go. Luckily, I've got my friend Harlan who does know what he's doing. So he keeps giving me advice, but I'm trying to do as much of this myself as I can because I don't know why, actually. I guess I'm an idiot. So anyway, we're working through here. I'm going to work a little more on doors today. Try to get those hung a little bit. It's New Year's Eve, though, so it's going to be a short-ish day. Not sure that we will get to fenders today. But if we do, we'll keep working. And you'll notice, I don't know if anybody remembers when the car came apart. There was a big ding here that had been repaired. And I'm assuming it was repaired because it was repainted when we got the hood in I think it was 2006, maybe 2007, when we did the SS hood for Power Tour. And we had Hot Rod Factory over are they in Ham Lake or yeah? Anyway, they're over there. Do that, and they did the paint match to the weird color that we had, and fixed all of this when they repainted the striping. So they had done some work here, but I wanted to have less filler than they had, so I actually spent some time over at Harlan's dollying this down a little bit to get it a little better. So this will take a lot less filler because the whole goal here is to have only as much as I have to have. You know, I know we've discussed this a bunch of times. This car in its past had quarters, and you can see where someone did the work. One side they did a lot better job on than another side. But either which way, when we're done, you will never be able to tell that because we're going to make this a nice, beautiful body line. It's just going to take time, which is also why we quit working the quarters in the trunk, because we get here. See, all of this, I have full confidence we're going to make the back of the car look good. This is the area. This was caved on both sides and just filled with mud and shaped. And that's not what we want. So we've been working the metal, trying to reduce the amount of filler. I know this looks like a lot, but this isn't even, oh God, a 32nd of an inch, maybe. You know, I mean, I could take my thumbnail and scratch through that. You can see it. Well, maybe you guys can see it in the sanding work. You can also see the ripple from when they welded, because that's the problem when you weld sheet metal. It doesn't take much heat to warp things, which is why I'm afraid of it. Yeah, on this side you can see this is getting nice and crisp. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but you see how suddenly there was a deep pocket, high spot, deep pocket, high spot, deep pocket, high spot. That's warp from the welding. We also know this was pretty bad right here. They literally, I think they couldn't get this body line to the old door, so I think they literally bashed that in and just filled it and shaped it. And I'm not saying that's actually not a viable solution. I mean, I didn't even know all that was done, and we had the car since 2004, I think, 2005. Must have been the end of 2004, because we bought this motor. Actually, we bought the entire WS6 in South Carolina that had been T-boned way back then, which is a fun story. We didn't get the whole car. You know, they parted out the parts we wanted and shipped them to us, and that became the LS1 T56 swap into the 67 years and years and years ago. And you know, it's had a few iterations over time, and I'm not going to say it won't have more. It's obviously going through one right now. But yeah, this has been a great car. And I know, boy, when we started this, Harlan really got on me about pulling this core support. Oh, God, I'm going to have to admit to him that he was probably right and I should have done that. Bummer. So, anyway, we'll deal with that when we get there. Right now, my big thing is I need the doors to fit enough for me to figure out what changes have to happen to these fenders. The other big thing is I would love to see an original car to see if the fender and the rocker actually had the same profile. I don't know if they did. I never paid attention because it's down on the ground. You know, if we come over here, unfortunately not the same kind of cars, but you'll see on this Pontiac, the fender really follows the rocker really well. Boy, on the Impala it does too. So, okay. There's going to be some welding work on my part. Is what it is. So, that's kind of where we're at. Anyway, let's try to get something done. Okay, I've been working this door for a little bit here. And I want to show you, actually before I show you that, the area I've exclusively been working is that lower hinge. So I have moved the hinge back a little bit and I've moved the door skin out. So you'll see here, let's get the straighter side here, that we're kind of in plane there. This is, and I'm using the tripod on purpose because I want to show you, in fact we'll zoom in, specifically my area of focus. For starters, you'll see things are, you know, looking pretty flat until, and let me drop the whole tripod a little bit, until this corner. And I can't even put this all on good mark because obviously, like we've discussed, this fender has some issues. So I'm going to take an area that should be pretty flat and we're going to use that as our reference. So not only do I have a missing body line here, this gap gets really wide and this stops being square. It gets bent back. See, at this point here, it's square, 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 and then the quarter becomes more this angle than this angle. So hopefully that stick shows what I'm talking about. So this gap gets pretty bad. Now, with it closed, I now have a rocker to door gap that I really like. So I'm going to have to build up a little metal in here. So at some point I'll have to grind out this filler and we'll have to make a little piece of rod or something and weld in there and then rebuild it back up, because that's too much to just be filler. If that was just filler, you'd slam the door once or twice, something get caught in it and it'd chip away. So we don't want that. So we already know that this is an area that's going to cause us some trouble. We do like our panel gap coming down to the first body line, which is now placed nicely. You know, there's some sanding damage here, but that can be fixed. All the way to right here. That is the point where this starts to go. And then let me open the door latch here. Oh, let's grab a light, which is in the door. And look at that. You can literally see this got folded back at some point when they were working. So there's damage here. So we're going to have to build this up to make that look the way I want it to. Will anybody honestly ever notice? No. No. I can't prove that doors are any nicer than that anyway from the factory. But if I'm here doing it, you know, because once the bright work's on here, we happen to know on these cars that the bright work can literally be on the wrong side of the car and you won't notice because it's below the belt line. And unless it's on a lift or unless you're looking specifically, you're just not going to see it. The other thing I did as I started this round was I did bring this hinge out. Oh boy, we're not talking much. Maybe a 64th or so. You know, just loosen those a little bit and give it a light smack. But I'm pretty happy with where we are relative to the good parts of the quarter. I'm not worried about the bad part yet. I've got the line that I feel is the second most important and the line that is the most important. They're parallel. They're happy. The door is at a good height. Remember, there's a little piece of trim. You know, there's trim down here. There's a spear. There's little trim panels. All of that's going to be fine. But just little nudge here, a little nudge there, and a little nudge here is making a huge difference. I don't think I've moved that back, but maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And I know I moved it out probably closer to 3/16, just knocking it out. And to do it, you know, like the one from inside. Oh, I hope nobody gets sick from moving like that. In fact, the reason the light was in the door is when I look inside the door, you can see the retainer plate right here. So that's where those 3 bolts are going through the hinge. And then I can loosen those a little bit and then just smack in or smack back to move that in out. Or if you got to move the whole door itself up and down, I can loosen both sets of hinges, move it up, move it down. That's what we did yesterday. That was what we were focusing on yesterday. It was just getting the door up high enough to get that gap and for this to line up. In theory, whatever we do up here, we have to make the fender match. However, we already know for a fact that the front of this door is wrong. I know that because I was already smacking on it. So, is what it is. Yeah, and it looks like I am going to be putting a mirror back on. I didn't even look on the other side. I was not originally going to put mirrors on the passenger side. Yes, this isn't drilled. We added the mirror to this car years and years and years ago, And this mirror is the most useless mirror on these old cars. It doesn't have that convex shape, so it's not objects in mirror further than they are, closer than they appear thing. And they're not useful, and they always just go and point to the ground anyway. So that's not going back on this car. ShopDog and I have been actually working on the other side for a little bit here. We took a minute to pull the grinder, kind of shape this up a little bit more. So you can see, in fact, I'm confident Harlan added this material here for me. So now I'm starting to knock down on it and the shaping. I've got a few areas where I'm still going to have to add a little bit. But you can see here that we're starting to get the shape. I have a couple little things I got to work out here. So if I'm here, it sticks out a little bit here. It also sticks out down here. I've got it lined up. Oh, you can't see my hand right here. So what I'm going to do is gently knock this. Well, if I bring this point out, that'll bring this point in. So let's start with that and see what we think. So I've got just a little baby smacker. And then remember we were talking about just loosening the top bolts just a little bit. So swing on the hinge at the top. Now I'm just going to smack it a little bit and tighten the center bolt. Let's see if that brought it the way I want it to come. So I'm back here. This is still in line. We're still out a little bit. So we'll do that again. Let me go grab my light and I'll show you what's moving. Or a light anyway. Alright. So looking at that hinge, when I come in here, let me put a light in here. Okay. Now I'm doing the one up on the top, but it's that same thing up high, a little harder to film. So I've got two things I can do. I can move this one in, but not much more. I'm almost against that bolt. Or I can move that one out. Also, not a lot more. Almost against the bolt. So we may wind up getting a little creative in there. The cages may not be welded as well as we want, but we will see. So that's just a plate inside a cage that can move around. So at this point, let me go ahead. Okay, so those are loose. That one's loose. I don't know that you guys can see it. Okay, and now I'm going to tighten this one. And that'll snug that plate. And let's see if that bought us anything. So, just picking a common point. Okay, so almost on the body here. Body line is still good here. Gap is amazing. And look at how close we are now. Although we made a change. And then, I don't know if it's the right position to be focusing on. But I've been focusing on this door, keeping this point as my frame of reference. So that to this. So you can see right here, I'm barely out. Here, it's pretty good. You know what? I think I could pull that out a little bit more. I could. So if I can pull this one out a little bit more, that'll also suck that in. So, okay, let's take a look there. That one's hard to get at. Okay, so that little knob didn't move it much, but it moved it, and I was watching the plate, so I know it did. So, what did that do for us? I'm going to start with the obvious thing that I care about right here. Oh, see? I like that even better than before. So, that looks pretty good. Let's hold our point. This is getting really, really close. I think it would not be bad to bring that. Which way do I want to bring that? I think I got to bring the door this way a touch. So to do that, we will go get our ratchet. The one with the right 1/2 inch socket. And what I've discovered is, don't be afraid to just play with things and see what happens. So, I mean, what's the worst it's going to be? Not aligned? It's not aligned now. So I'm talking about potentially lifting the back of the door just a little bit. So I have these loose-ish. You know, they're not super loose, but they can be convinced. So I'm just going to lift the door a little. Then we're going to tighten her down on 2 bolts so it can't rotate. And we're going to see what we got there. This body line's good. This is within tolerance of what I would accept. And that looks really good. So, with that closed, that's pretty reasonable. Now remember, it can go in further, but that's what leather stripping is. You know, you gotta have room for that. So, I think, now remembering this was already pretty closely aligned, I think this is not unreasonable. And look at how nice this gap is. In fact, I might even do some extra grinding there to make it the same as here, but not yet. Not until I'm confident. But see, that's nice. That's perfect. This one lines right up. And with the door closed and the bright work on there, that'll look nice. Yeah, real happy with that body line. So that is hung decent. The problem is I'm gonna put the fender on and it won't be. So it is what it is. Looking to wrap it up here shortly. A little time has passed. It's New Year's Eve, so I got things I'd rather be doing tonight. But this gap is still much wider than I want compared to the other side. So we're probably going to look at adding to the door for the bulk of this, even down here. However, I also still, if you recall, have to add down here. So I was digging through my metal pile. I don't really have anything appropriate. I'm thinking something like 1/8 inch welding rod, maybe? Maybe something where I can crack the coating off of it, because you know, I don't think coat hangers are a thing anymore. I think they're all plastic. So, because you can see this gap, a lot tighter. Still some work to do here, but I should be able to do that just stitching like Harlan did here. But this gap is much tighter. And obviously, I don't know if you can see, but I've been working this plane a little bit. So using that as our reference from here to here, see, okay. Let me grab something that you can see. See, there's a ledge there. So, drop the tape. Here, grab this little shim. And now you can see. It's pretty flat here. It's perfect here. It's still a little high here, and I don't want to just build that up. So I've been kind of working across here with a dolly and a little hammer. So, be a little more work there, but a little and a little and a little. Don't go ham on stuff. But yeah, I'm going to have to order or maybe go to Northern or something and buy some rod I can use for weld up here. God, you can see how much that's out of there. So I have a feeling that was all filler. And I really don't want it to be all filler. So, yeah. I'm going to have to learn how to add a little metal. So anyway, a little shorter today. Do appreciate you watching. Happy New Year. Hope 2023 is finally over for you and 2024 is a better year. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.